Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Today, I am going to unbox and take a first look at the Warhammer 40K Wrath and Glory starter set from Cubicle 7 Games. This is written by Christopher Colston, Zach Dale Clutterbuck, Oliver Darkshire, Michael Duxbury, Kat Evans, Kai Linder, Eleanor Hingley, Elaine Lithgow, Sarah Madsen, Patrick Murphy, and Sven Truckenbraut. Hopefully I haven't mispronounced too many of those names. This starter set is available now. It carries an MSRP of $39.99. I have to be honest, I'm not sure if you get a free PDF or not if you order from Cubicle 7, so keep that in mind. But you can grab just the PDF alone over at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. All that said, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got the starter set for Warhammer 40K Wrath and Glory. Few things to mention before we dive on in. First of all, my friends over at Cubicle 7 provided me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this coverage with you. These days, it's important that you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the booklets that are in this starter set, but I do want to give you a good feel for what you're going to find inside this box. Lastly, I do believe there's an introductory adventure in here. So if you are a player and your game master has picked up the starter set, or maybe they're kicking around picking it up, when we hit that adventure, I definitely recommend as a player, tune out now. Even though I know nothing about the adventure, you don't want the surprises ruined simply because you watch this video. Now, having said that, if your game master is considering picking up the starter set, let them know about this video, and that way they can approach this and make a far more informed buying decision. So let's get the shrink wrap off, and then we will take a look at the back. Get started playing Warhammer 40,000 Wrath and Glory. The Gilead System shudders on the edge of ruin. Can you pull it back from the brink? Embrace the grim darkness of the forsaken Gilead System in the Wrath and Glory starter set. Charge into the fray as an agent of the Baronius Flotilla, the Imperium's fragile bulwark amidst the chaos engulfing the entire system. Face demonic incursions, root out insidious traitors, and fight to keep the flicker of hope alive in this merciless corner of the galaxy. The Emperor protects. Will you stand fast when all others have fallen? That tells us what's in here, but we're going to find out because we're opening the box right now. So we've got some dice here. Wrath and Glory does use D6s. So if you are familiar with the new Imperium Maledictum, you know that's percentile based. Well, Wrath and Glory uses six-sided dice, and these are cut dice. Very nice, and as you can see, they are custom as well. So we've got Read This First, which is pretty much what we saw with the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay starter set, which is excellent. Cubicle 7 really does do phenomenal work with their starter sets. If you follow the Gaming Gang, you know I am a huge fan of just about everything that comes out from Cubicle 7. Really enjoy it. I think production quality is always top-notch. You get plenty of value for your dollar, and you get plenty of gaming goodness with each of their releases. So it shows us what we're going to find in the box. So we're going to have Trader's Hymn. Taking a guess, that is going to be our introductory adventure, which will probably teach us the rules as we go. Guide to Baronius Flotilla, 6 character sheets, the dice, tokens, reference sheets, and maps. And then we get a bit of a breakdown. What is Warhammer 40K Wrath and Glory? Very nice. Next up, we have got our pre-generated characters. That's one of the things you will find with starter sets. You don't get character creation rules, so you always get pre-generated characters. Now, I should say not every starter set doesn't have the character creation rules. In fact, Traveler's starter set is the core rulebook itself, just broken up in two, as well as a campaign. But for the most part, we do find starter sets don't have character creation rules. So it looks like we've got half a dozen characters. So we have Marius, the Space Marine Scout, Aletha, the Eldari Ranger, Trave Milcon 22, Scutarius, Lachlan Teague, a rogue trader, Sister Honorita, the Sister of Battle, and then we also have Somnus, a sanctioned psyker. So a lot of people sometimes wonder, what is the difference between Wrath and Glory and the new Imperium Maledictum? In Wrath and Glory, you have a far higher power level to your characters. So as an example, in Imperium Maledictum, you do not play as Space Marines, but in Wrath and Glory, you most certainly can. So to give you an idea of what we have inside of these character sheets, so we're going to get a background. I'll give you a better look by moving this over. So we've got a background, connections, secrets that the character has, as well as that player character's objectives. Then we've got all of our stats. We've got their talents, their abilities, what kind of gear they own. Then we get a breakdown of the faction they actually belong to, and then the abilities and talents. So we'll get definitions of those, as well as some notes on equipment. And then, of course, it says, well, who is this? Who is this character? So we've got that. Let's kind of show you the interiors of these. I have found the artwork in Wrath and Glory is really nicely done, too. I'll be the first to point out, I am not all that well-versed in all of the background for Warhammer 40K, especially the current edition. I don't own anything from Warhammer 40K from Games Workshop. I used to, way back in the day, I used to pick up miniatures for Warhammer 40K. And if you follow the gaming gang, you know I've talked about playing Epic quite a bit. But it has been a long, long time since I actually owned something from Games Workshop for Warhammer 40K. So here is our adventure book, Trader's Hymn. You know what? I'm going to save that for last, because that's where I'm recommending players tune out. And we still have some other things in here. So this is Saddle Stitched. This is a Saddle Stitched book. Here we've got tokens, which just had a couple of them pop out, 3 of them. So these are cut very nicely. So we have that. We also have some handouts, some player aids. So we've got the Wrath die, Wrath points, fear tests, making a test, tests in detail. So we've got opposed tests, shifting, talking about damage and combat, wounds and death, different actions in your combat round, attacking, threats and determination, critical hits. Gotta say, these are nice and thick, the cardstock on these. So these are all single-sided. We get a breakdown of the Gilead System, also single-sided. And then we get our setting book, the Veronius Flotilla. As far as I understand, 2024 is going to be a big year for Wrath and Glory. I understand there are some major releases that are kind of percolating in the pipeline. I don't believe they have been announced yet. And truthfully, my good friend T.S. Lukehart from Cubicle 7 has kind of told me about some stuff, not in a lot of detail, but unfortunately, I can't really tell you. So I do want to point out, even though Imperium Maledictum has come out and it is really well done, have no fear, Wrath and Glory is still going to get a lot of support from Cubicle 7. All right, so let's see what we've got here. So this appears that this is going to give us a lot of background into the Wrath and Glory setting for Warhammer 40K. Gives a breakdown of what's going on. Why is the Gilead system cut off from the rest of known space? I don't think we're going to get a lot of stat blocks in this. I think this is just kind of giving us background, essentially. I might be wrong. Notable locations. Looks like we're getting some of the planets in the system. A bit of a gazetteer. Then we're getting into some of the important locations, ports of call, it looks like. Runner's Ridge. Built upon the protruding middle tier of a domestic hive, Runner's Ridge does brisk business in both legitimate trade and an underground smuggling and racketeering ring. While the majority of Gilead Primus's population is concerned with survival rather than advancement, the opportunity for profit exists within Runner's Ridge for those with the ambition and moral flexibility to achieve their goals. And we get some short adventures too. Probably one session long. Defensive Hill 09 L7 8B7. The Wages of Cowardice. Unfinished Business. Cool, very nice. Now, of course, the adventure book, which will have our rules and the introductory adventure, is going to be a far longer adventure. The Dreaming and the Damned. Nice. Another aspect of Wrath and Glory that's pretty interesting is the various different tiers of characters. So you can kind of concoct the power level of your adventures by way of the tiers. I thought it's pretty cool how they've put that together. So let's get into the adventure book. Trader's Hymn is an introductory adventure for the Wrath and Glory role-playing game set in the universe of Warhammer 40K. Wrath and Glory is a fast-paced game of science fiction, action, and horror. If you're already a Warhammer 40K fan, you'll find a lot of familiar elements here. If not, don't worry. We'll explain concepts as they become important. You'll find all the details of enemies at the end and other reference materials such as conditions and weapon traits on convenient handouts, which we already took a peek at. Just going to talk about rolling dice and making tests. Wrath and Glory uses six-sided dice or D6s for all tests. These are denoted as D6. So one six-sided die is 1d6, two are 2d6, and so on. We'll go into the mechanics of the game in more detail as we introduce them through the adventure. But in a typical test, you roll a number of d6s equal to our character's relevant attribute plus their relevant skill. Then count up how many icons you have rolled. Each die that comes up as a 4 or 5 counts as one icon. A 6 is called an exalted icon, which means it counts as 2. If the player has rolled enough icons to meet or exceed the difficulty number, their agent succeeds at whatever they were trying to do. All in all, pretty easy as far as the core action resolution mechanic. So we've got the adventure itself, which is walking the game master and the players through the game rules as you play. Very interesting concept. And if Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay's starter set is any indication, it is going to be very nicely implemented also. So just kind of flipping through here a bit. But we have these various different side boxes which give us additional information about the setting, the adventure, and the rules. So here in combat options, we've got aim, all-out attack, charge, cover, fallback, full auto, multi-action, reflexive attack, run, and sprint. If I remember correctly, I think in the rule book there are more actions than just that. But it has been a little bit of time since I took a peek at the core rule book for Wrath and Glory. Looks like this is a fairly long adventure. We aren't finding a ton of page space devoted to big info dumps as far as the rules. Of course, we do have the setting book, which is going to do that. NPCs and threats. So here are our stat blocks for our allies and enemies, no doubt. As you can see, these stat blocks for NPCs in Wrath and Glory aren't pages and pages of stats that you have to look at. Right here, pretty easy for a game master to wrap their head around. And that is a look at Trader's Hymn, the adventure book for the starter set for Warhammer 40K Roleplay Wrath and Glory. So we've got the box, which has a pretty cool insert. Now, unlike the starter set for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, there is no mini Game Master screen on the inside of the box top, which, if you saw my first look years ago at the WIFREP starter set, I was like, where's the basic GM screen that's advertised? I'm looking. I'm like, I don't see it. And it was on the inside of the box top. So we've got the Gilead System. We've got the player aids. We have the setting book, the adventure book. We have our tokens, as well as our 6 pre-generated characters and a bunch of custom 6-sided dice. Really like those dice. Those are going to hold up real nicely. They are not just simply silk screened. Those are cut dice. And that is what we find when we take a look inside the Warhammer 40K Roleplay Wrath and Glory starter set from Cubicle 7 Games. Of course, I will have a review of this starter set in the not too distant future. I should also point out, join me starting a week from today as I will be kicking off Cubicle 7 Week here on the Gaming Gang channel. I have loads of Cubicle 7 goodness to share with you all week long. So please tune in. And we're going to take a peek at quite a few game systems too. So it's not just simply one game system we'll be looking at. All right. Once again, this starter set is available right now. It is out in stores. Carries an MSRP of $39.99. Or you can grab just the PDF alone over at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. Sweet. I am looking forward to diving on in and checking this out. I like Wrath and Glory. I know some people out there, they don't like the setting. They don't like the situation that's going on in the Gilead system. I think it's different. I think it's unusual. And it's not your typical Warhammer 40K sort of game setting. All right. Anyway, that's it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It will not only let you know when I share videos such as this first look, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you will not find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. And until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.